particularly liked. No, he used to play a bit of Karma, but doesn't really work in the support role anymore. So, yeah, I would like to see a priority on Alistair for Hiva.
We also have to remember some of the implications of this game. Team Forge sitting at 2-1, with K1ck sitting at 3-0. So if Team Forge are able to take a win here, this will be absolutely massive for them moving up in the standings.
Yeah, for sure. So we've got these bans coming out. Azir and Caitlyn coming out from Team Forge. Lucian going to be that first ban, followed by Rise out from K1ck Esports. So pretty generic coming across the board. Caitlyn may be one of the more different ones coming into the bans at least, and then Nidalee aimed at the jungle. But we've been seeing a lot of Caitlyn this tournament along with Ezreal and Lucian.
Yeah, funnily enough, today we've seen a little bit of a I think this is the second Caitlyn ban of the day, so it does seem that teams are a little bit more wary of it. Maybe perhaps with this one day off that teams have had, they've reevaluated what sort of plays you can make down in the bottom lane. But yeah, it's especially around lane swaps and Dragon, Caitlyn is actually really good because of how the lane swap dynamic is ever so slightly changed. But immediately with the Lucian ban, it's just like saying, okay, well, with Caitlyn out of the picture, that to me says you want to put a value on Lucian, so we're going to take him off the board. I
actually really like the Morgana ban, aims at Jizuki because of the 2 games he's had, which have just been absolutely fantastic. Landing those bans constantly has basically been the linchpin of that composition, because they do like these pick compositions with the Morgana in mid lane. So taking that one away, they've seen how much damage that pick can do, and Trundle as a first pick is not really a surprise anymore out of this tournament. We've seen him first picked so many times.
He offers a lot of flexibility. You can put him in support, you can put him in top, you can put him in the jungle if you really want to. I wouldn't advise it, but you can. But you have so much room to play with the Trundle, and depending on what you see the opponent pick, you can just save it for later. And they're likely to pick either their top or mid, so Team Forge going to get a counter pick either way by picking up that Trundle.
Very, very true. 40 seconds left for K1ck Esports on their first 2 pickups. What is still available? We've got Echo available, a bunch of the junglers actually.
Nidalee, like Kindred, Graves, Ezreal might be a priority.
All the mid laners as well, Victor.
Well, Azir and Rise are banned.
So yeah, Victor goes up in priority.
Victor definitely raises in priority.
I wonder if we'll see an early pickup of Victor then from K1ck, because what else could you go mid lane against Victor nowadays?
Vlad? I don't know, Veigar?
Vlad? Veigar?
These
so basically no good options, is what we're finding out. So
Lissandra as well. Yeah, you can pick her up. And LeBlanc. We have seen LeBlanc played into the Victor as well. So there are some picks. It depends largely on what Jizuki likes to play, and so far we have only seen more of this Morgana than anything else coming out from him.
Cool. So Braum coming out as the support choice.
You called it.
Going over to Rux, and hey, there's the Victor. I definitely feel like that pick has risen in popularity for sure over this tournament. Lissandra could be a decent pick into it. We've seen, oh, there you go. Looking at the Lissandra, needs to lock that in though, and hovering over the Echo. So yeah, I just need to see where the priorities are for Forge, whether they want to lock in the mid laner now. We're going to see the Echo lock in. Okay, so most likely we're going to see Trundle go down to support, Echo go top lane, and then Sivir, of course, ADC.
Yes, the Sivir I really like right now, in particular because we've seen a transition in the top lane from heavy tank, hard CC, to more of these off tanks where you have the Trundle that rely on the flanks. The Echo, yes, he has an engage, but it's quite difficult to land. And as well as that, in the jungle, we're seeing things like the Kindred, the Graves, the Nidalee, who again aren't that great at hard engaging, and you're going back to range supports as well. Obviously, Alistair is still open, so Hiva wouldn't be surprised if he decides to go for that, but the Sivir provides an engage that doesn't have to rely on the jungle or the top or the support, and I think it works very nicely in teams just looking for another way to find those fights.
And it's even better with the Alistair because it just helps him get in range. Even if he doesn't get the flank, he can just run super fast at you and land that combo. Looking towards next 2 pickups from K1ck, using all the time they have available to them. We've seen a lot of Ezreal in this tournament as well, just in that trifecta of AD carries right now. And the Poppy will be picked up. So no real surprises on the K1ck lineup. They like to play fast, they like to play hard as well, and just looking more towards those team fights. So just looking towards what Team Forge would be picking up. Trying to think what else Hiva would pick. I mean, the very obvious choice would be Alistair. Bard as well would be a Hiva champion.
He's not really like a Janna sort of...
No.
You
can basically roll those off the table when Hiva's playing.
And the thing, like... If it protects your AD carry, Hiva probably doesn't play it.
Yeah.
But the Poppy pick into the Trundle, I like this more for the Trundle these days, but given that they've seen the Echo, they know that the Echo is going to go into the top lane, so they're saying, okay, we're fine picking the Poppy into the Echo, and it's pretty much just like most top lane matchups are right now, just very back and forth. Sometimes depending on where they are in terms of items, one will have an edge over the other. What we are noticing though is that the Rift Tower buff is shifting some of those matchups a little bit more. Having that damage reduction does help a lot. But yeah, it's not that too different in the top lane. Same for the bottom lane with the Ezreal Braum combo that we've been seeing a lot of, and it just makes Ezreal even more obnoxious because he's already hard to kill. When you have a Braum on top of that, he's almost impossible.
Well, we got one out of the two. There's the Alistair definitely for Hiva, no surprises. But the Vladimir coming out as the champion of choice for Jizuki when Lissandra's still up. LeBlanc, you even mentioned, is still available. So Vladimir coming up, interesting. Very interesting.
So a bit of a lack. Wait a minute. Okay, so this is actually... We were talking so much about Hiva playing the Alistair that we thought for a long time that the Trundle was in the support role. And
that's a good point.
Trundle is actually going top. So this is the flexibility that you have, and the Echo is going to be going into the jungle. Now, I used to play a lot of Echo jungle. The Cinderholt, so you have two routes. You can either go Cinderholt into a little bit more damage, or you can go the damage, so the Runic Echoes, into full tank. I imagine Runic Echoes into full tank, very similar to the way Elisa's build will be the build path. But K1ck coming out with the Echo jungle, really unique. Not sure how much I like it in the composition. It doesn't really offer that much. Maybe they were just trying to take it away from K1ck, and they felt like, let's just put it in the jungle. We want Hiva on the Alistair. We don't want him on the Trundle. We want to give the Trundle the good matchup into the Poppy. The Subjugate's really good on her. But, well...
And it's an interesting flex at least, right? Because it was like we just assumed that the Echo was going against the Poppy and then it would be an even matchup. Trundle does better against Poppy than Echo does, so that's actually going to swing the way of Forge now. Yeah, I just wasn't expecting that as a flex into jungle. I mean, we've seen it as a flex into mid lane, just not into that other role. So we did have the final pickup. That was also Kindred coming in from K1ck Esports. So we'll see how that one does. I mean, a lot of high priority junglers went all the way through that draft, so he had to pick up the litter really.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Team Forge didn't go for the Kindred either. Because when you have Sivir Kindred, really nice combo, you have a lot of damage. You also have the extra bit of peel if you need it with your ultimate. Make all kinds of plays. Your neutral objective taking is pretty strong. You also have the split push presence from the Trundle if you want. I mean, they're just, I don't know. We'll have to see. Echo first.
I don't know either.
Yeah, like, this is quite unique for me. I'm quite surprised. But Echo jungle is something that I haven't seen for a while. It can definitely still work. His ratios have been buffed a little while back, so the Runic Echoes will work quite nicely on him. You get a bit of extra damage and movement speed and all that cool stuff that you want from your Echo jungle. But build path will be something that we need to keep our eyes on, because Abyssal still works really nicely, but I wouldn't be surprised if he just goes full tank. You don't get as much resources in the jungle. You won't be able to keep up with the Kindred in terms of wave clearing. If you lose your blue, you really will suffer in the early game, because his mana cost can be pretty high. So aggression from the chase, something that he is known for, he could look to do in this game to put K1ck behind. Because there's no way the Echo is going to be able to trade with a Kindred in the early game.
Yeah, exactly. Talking of item builds as well, I actually want to know if he goes like pure tank, or he does go for like an Abyssal Sept or something kind of like an Elise type build where you go for like the Rylai's and more AP versus just going tank, which you will do in solo lanes. And then on the opposite side, Victor, we've seen a bunch of Victor. Pretty standard composition, I think, overall from K1ck. Just looking at those team fights, of course, with the Victor AoE and the Ezreal getting to that mid game, and Poppy as well landing a good ult. But definitely changes the dynamic now with Trundle being up against Poppy in the top lane.
Yeah, and this is the thing that concerns me the most for K1ck, because notice that the Poppy, you have the Poppy and the Braum acting as your front line, but Poppy kind of needs to be your engage. She is that come in from the flank, try and set up a pick onto an individual person, and the rest of your team follows up on that. The problem that you're going to have is if that Poppy comes in from the flank, instant subjugate is going to make that Poppy super squishy. You can't use that QSS to remove that anymore, and you're just going to be able to turn and insta-kill the Poppy. And with the front line gone, and with a Sivir Alistair, there's no way that K1ck are going to be able to escape from this. So they need to look for plays around neutral objectives like the Dragon, like the Rift Tower, like the Baron, like the Elder Dragon. Many more objectives to play around right now, but that's pretty much what they need to rely on. And we know they love to team fight. We know they love to find any opportunity they can, but with the reintroduction of Hiva, Forge pretty much enjoy team fighting as well.
As a quick update, we do have LeChase with a slight bug, so we're just waiting for him to get back into game, but you can see the full rosters here. Jizuki on that Vladimir. What's your opinion of Vladimir right now? Because we're actually seeing a bit more of him. This is the third Vladimir game I think we've had of CSQ.
Selfie demonstrated that Vlad late game can still really hurt. Going for a very early Spirit Visage actually was really quite unique and interesting. And I'm looking forward to seeing how he decides to play this game as well.
Indeed, he went for the Storm Raider Surge as his Keystone Mastery. So we're going to see 4G now shooting out of their base, and we're seeing a fan come out from both of these two teams. So we'll see if they decide to lane swap or do anything fun.
He went Doran Shield.
He did go Doran Shield.
Don't know how I feel about that. It's not very cost efficient. It restores 6 health every 5 seconds. I mean, that kind of helps with Vlad, who spends a lot of mana, or a lot of his health, sorry, early game to cast some of his spells. But yeah, I don't like it. I would have preferred the boots
and the refillable, or yeah.
Boots refillable works too. Yeah, that's the
last game, I think.
Yeah, I think that would work too. But yeah, I'm not a fan. Either way, Jizuke still has plenty of time to redeem himself with his itemization.
I mean, I have faith in Jizuki as well because of how good his Morgana games has been.
We doubted his Morgana initially too, so
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on this one.
So the Vlad into the Victor matchup, you can get shoved under the tower quite easily as the Vlad. You don't have that much wave clear, especially compared to a Victor who can just use that death ray to clear the wave and constantly make it difficult for you. Farming under turret as a Vlad is a very obnoxious thing. You don't have your Q up very often in the early game. It's got quite a high cooldown. And that's actually, you can see its cooldown now because of the bar underneath its head.
That's true, actually. All the time you can see Vlad's cooldown. That confused me super hard the first time I played Vladimir, that I didn't realize that his bar represents the cooldown. But it does. But it also means that your opponent can see that as well. So it's actually very easy to play around Vladimir's Crimson Rush in the early game because it's like, oh, there we go, Crimson Rush gets to fuck. Never mind, he's not going to play around it. He's just going to trade with him. And that's what happens when you don't play around Crimson Rush. You just take a lot of damage because it doubles the damage that Q does and also increases the healing like massively because it also gives percent missing health back. Bot lane's going to go toe-to-toe. I think slight advantage to K1ck. As the last auto attack came in from Gap, I think it may have just swung. But you can see just the aggression as well. Hiva just wants to go in. Level 1. They also both went for camps. Also gave it to the ADCs. And now we have Truxlax in the top lane. Mimic also up there. Remember, this is Trundle versus Poppy, which we weren't expecting because the Echoes also picked up. But Taiki is going to be fielding that one in the jungle this game.
Yep, he certainly is. The Echo Jungle is someone we need to keep our eyes on. The lane swap didn't come out up against either team. They decided to go for that standard lane matchup. So the Poppy going to go up against the Trundle. In the early game, it doesn't really matter that much. Trundle doesn't really have that much of an impact. But have a look at how overextended the bottom lane of 4G are right now.
Hiva's going to go in, land the combo. Gap's going to try and do some stuff in the retreat, but Hiva, I think he may have to go down. It actually gets the headbutt into tower. Doesn't have the pulverize, however.
No.
One more tower shot until the chase. He's ticking down. That'll be first blood from Gap. The outplays in from Team Forge.
That was so good from Hiva as another gank in the mid.
Might be better. And Zico does manage to get out there. I tried so hard calling him Chico, but he wants to be called Zico now, so.
Oh my word. So, let's just backtrack. So, Team Forge, they're overextending in the bottom lane. LeChase sees out as an easy gank, understandably, but when you're coming in from the back, that allows Hiva to then just get the headbutt onto you, put him further away from his opponents, he flashes back, and then the heal is enough to keep him alive as well as the health pot. The ignite was enough to get the kill, and now Gap, okay, he overextended.
He overextended hard. He's going to turn around, try and put some damage down. Suzuki coming in from the mid lane. He's going to flash actually onto Roxu. They both separated, coming in with the auto attacks, and the last one will be enough to finish him off. Hiva coming in as well. Kepe over the wall. Hiva has no flash from the last play. Otherwise, you can be sure he would have flashed after him.
Okay, so Gap right there, he tried to continue farming. The wave was pushed against him, and basically K1ck capitalized. Bit of a misplay. The TP did come out from Jizuke to try and get something back. Unfortunately, because he had the CS advantage, he's not going to lose too much for it, but he is going to lose his flash, which could be a bit of a problem moving forward, but still ends up trading 1-for-1 overall. The biggest problem, I suppose, is Gap is going to lose that advantage that they were able to gain in the bottom lane.
I also think the biggest thing from that play was, yes, there was a good play from Hiva to knock LeChase into the tower, but LeChase also outplayed himself because he walked back into the tower once he was outside of tower range, so a little bit of both.
LeChase.
But maybe it was a sick predict from Hiva, knowing he would do that. Top lane, I just saw him miss a cannon. To be fair, it was on like 2 HP, so you can be forgiven for that one. Chasing Rook's just going to be taking this one down. That's actually a really nice thing. If you're Braum and you're just walking past a buff or like a big monster, then just hit it, or with anything, because concussive blows really helps out your jungler, because they can proc it themselves.
Yes, yes it does. Having a look right now, it does seem that Qualifiers is going to go towards that Runic Echoes first. So he is going to go for a bit of extra ability power early on. Notice that he has decided to upgrade his refillable potion to a Hunter's Potion, so he has a little bit more sustain in the jungle, which is always valuable to have. And yeah, it does give you a bit of mana back as well. So given his mana costs and the fact that, oh, actually, in this, he gets the blue buff all to himself because it's a Vlad in the mid lane. So I like that. Jungler getting blue buff is always a positive thing.
Yeah, especially for Echo.
Yeah.
Of all champions. He's gone for the Hunter's Potion. Actually, before he's gone for anything else. He definitely is going for the Runic Echoes, so you predicted that one right, Vedius. But going for the Hunter's Potion before he's gone for anything else. Going to hold that for a second as Qualifiers comes into the mid lane. This time, Zico doesn't have a flash, and he will be going down. It just means Jizuki needs to go under this tower. Sanguine Pool. He Tides of Blood. Jizuki, one more tower shot. Oh, 16 HP, and will survive.
So the level up actually kept Jizuki alive right there. Ambitious, but he was able to pull it off. So nice flash play coming out from Qualifiers. These are the sort of ganks you can make with an Echo. Very little you can do about it if you do get hit up by that parallel convergence. And it's kind of hard to see coming because you don't see it till the last second. So have a look at this, Zico and Jizuki. Jizuki actually playing very aggressively in the lane, doing what he can to just trade back and forth, using that E to not only, the Tides of Blood to not only wave clear, but also get a bit of extra damage down. Then you get the flash stun coming in from Qualifiers. There's absolutely nothing Zico can do because he doesn't have his flash available to him. Jizuki almost loses his life thanks to the shield coming out from Zico. But thanks to the level up, he was able to get away with that one. So another kill going over to Team Forge, and right now putting K1ck through the works right now.
It was a little closer than he maybe wanted in the middle lane. Sanguine Pool has already been used, but LeChase, because he's coming in from the top side, he's just going to walk it off. And Jizuki is going to walk back into mid lane. He's already gone back, so he's back into the mid lane with 2 kills now. 48 farm, and that's resulted in a Spectre's Cowl and a Kindle Gem. So he's looking for that defensive route first, but because of his passive, it's going to be converting that into AP regardless. So
yeah, the changes to Vlad mean that you gain more ability power per health compared to before. How Truxlax. Oh, nice!
What a pillar. That's going to force the flash from Truxlax because he was going right into the path of parallel convergence.
Yeah, I really like that play coming out from Mimic. Really nice interaction to prevent Truxlax from being able to get away. Going to force the flash out of him, so now Qualifiers can potentially look for another gank in the future. As LeChase now hanging around the top half of the map, prepared for the possibility of a dive coming out from 4G.
And going to be clearing out this ward, had the Razor Sharp buff. So 3-1 currently in this game, 8 minutes into this. And 4G being aggressive, but being aggressive in different lanes. That's the interesting thing. Yes, we had some action in the bottom lane, but the junglers have been very active in the mid lane. Again, LeChase is going to try a mid lane gank, and again, Jizuki's going to walk to the bottom side of his lane, because that's what you do when you're walking towards the bottom side of the lane. So interesting that LeChase decided to use the same ganking route again. But Jizuki is going to be absolutely fine with that, and is definitely ahead in farm right now. That's one of the big changes with Vlad. His laning phase is a lot more oppressive than it used to be. It's just about his scaling into mid game and late game and how it deals with team fights, because Tides of Blood is no longer instant. You have to charge up, find a good moment to do so, which is quite hard when everyone's wailing on you.
However, if you do get that ultimate down, you have to remember the amount of health that it gives back is actually ridiculous. So even if you take a lot of damage, as long as you land that Tides of Blood while the ultimate has gone down, you then just need to... the combo is kind of like Tides of Blood or ult Tides of Blood into your Crimson Rush. Ideally, you want to have the charges up. Then you go into your Sanguine Pool, come back out again. If you can get in another sneaky Crimson Rush, then go for it. But if you've taken a lot of damage, it doesn't matter because you'll get all of it back from hitting multiple members of that ultimate. And obviously, that combo can be quite hard to land. It's you do have to be pretty good at Vladimir, but clearly with the day off, Jizuki's taken that as an opportunity to pull out this Vlad pick. So first Dragon of the game likely going to be going down to Team Forge. This is going to be the Mountain Drake, and that's going to give you a bit of extra damage to epic monsters as well as objectives. So 4G going to be pretty happy with that one. Going to help up their siege. which they definitely need, because if you just have a look at their composition, it's not actually fantastic at taking down turrets.
And the next dragon is going to be Ocean as well, so we'll probably see more contest over that one, because that is just useful throughout the entire game. And I'm just seeing Heaver just roam throughout the jungle, so kind of hitting a low on the action, but we're seeing some item breakpoints. Jizuki now hitting that Spirit Visage, first big item of the game, only 10 minutes in. That's a lot of gold put in there. Mimic is going to go toe-to-toe with Qualifiers. And you can see how this matchup is not very good for Puppey, because there's very little he can do. He's even have to charge up the ultimate.
Oh.
That was actually a nice play by Mimic. He was trying to flash out of the range of Keeper's Verdict, but because he kind of flashed into the line that was coming out, he just got knocked back anyway.
Yeah,
he was hoping to jump off to the side or behind.
A little bit unfortunate for Mimic. He's going to lose his flash for very little gain. He is going to get a bit of damage down onto that turret, though. So you can start to see now how oppressive that Trundle can be up against the Poppy. Especially now that the Tiamat has been completed, Mimic is not being afraid to just go all-out aggressive. The turret is still relatively healthy, and the chase is in the top half of the map, so that is going to force Mimic to go back, and he's now going to move towards that Balmy Cinder. It's quite a cost-efficient item to just pick up the Balmy Cinder rather than just rush that Sunfire Cape, so likely he's going to go for that and then move towards the Ravenous Hydra.
It's also like he's not threatened at all in this lane, because he's gone for none of the defensive items and only the offensive components. The offensive component being the Balmy Cinder and the Tiamat, whereas on the opposite side, Qualifiers is going straight towards his Sunfire Cape. Jizuki got the Crimson Rush, but unfortunately nothing to steal the blood out of right now. So 1,000 gold advances to 4G, basically just from kills. The Dragon's gone down, but that doesn't give you gold anymore. The chase is going to be coming after Taiki. I'm not really sure why Taiki jumped in there, but does have his ultimate. He's going to Chrono Shift in his 1-on-2. It's actually not too bad for him with Mimic coming down and Jizuki in from the mid lane. Qualifiers is going to get slowed. The chase is going to have to flash over the wall, and Zico will cut off his aggression route with the gravity field.
So Taiki actually playing really aggressively there and stupidly confident as well, because he knew that his team was going to be there to back him up. He held onto his ultimate just for long enough to not only get the damage down, but also get a bit of his health back, and then he just had enough to escape as Zico. Ooh, I thought Jizuki would go for the all-in there. He might still do.
He might. He needs to get out of the range of the Aftershock and still takes it to the face. That is unfortunate, and Jizuki's going to turn around and punish him for it. Tides of Blood actually doesn't land, and he's going to take the damage in from another laser, but he's getting so much health back from these minions using his Q. Zico, I mean, all of that was really just on whipping his ultimate.
Yeah, Zico forced to use the heal there because he thought that Jizuki would go for the commit. Nice mind games coming out from the Vladimir, demonstrating that during the laning phase he can definitely put a lot of pressure down. Because of the pressure that Jizuki was able to draw, that means that 4G felt very confident moving towards taking that Rift Herald, and given the strong vision control they had around there, it was a nice easy pickup. And now 4G looking to put a bit of damage down onto this mid tier 1 turret, as the bottom lane of K1ck are being forced continuously underneath their tower.
And Taiki's just going to clear out his jungle, gone for the Runic Echoes. I just want to see where he goes from here. That was our question in Champion Select in terms of his build. And he's going back right now, so I'm sure we'll find out. Chase on the opposite side, going for that Blood Eraser. So he's going to be more aggressive in the kind of early and mid-game rather than just stacking it up when it was Devourer. But even up against Taiki, he wasn't coming out favorably, even in the 1-on-2. So he might need to change up his tactics. Looks like we're going the tanky route, building towards a Catalyst on Taiki. So, interesting. Interesting
indeed. So Echo in particular, in the top lane, throughout this tournament has actually not been doing that well. I'm not entirely certain on the statistic, but I believe he's been losing more games than he's been winning. So the fact that Taiki decides to put him in the jungle means that we are seeing something a little bit different from the Echo. And you and I have been discussing a lot about how I feel like he could go more toward... Oh, Echo right now could go into more AP. His scaling is really good. Rod of Ages has been changed. It's cheaper now. And I think it could be a great item to make Echo a little bit more off-tanky, but then also help him towards his scaling. You can then still go into full tank mode after that, but you just have a little bit of extra damage as well. Very few... Well, no Echoes have decided to take it, but maybe Taiki has decided that it might be worth a try.
Maybe. He's already doing something unconventional, building him in the jungle, so maybe he'll take the extra step and go for more AP. Bot lane, how are we looking on AD carries? Haven't seen them in a while, actually. After all the aggression and laning phase from Heaver and Gap, there they are. There they are. At least kick side, I haven't seen Gap or Heaver in a while. You can see that k1ck, he's currently half stacked on his Mirror Mana, or on his way to the Mirror Mana with the Mana Moon. k1ck has completed his Essence Reaver. He's going to go for that standard build. We'll go for a crit item after that as well. And also gone for those Swifty Boots. So, I don't know what they've been doing. I think they've just been farming. And judging by their farm, 137,
farming?
50 minutes into the game, then I think he's just been in bot lane farming. He's now in top lane farming.
Yeah,
he's actually soaking up all the waves that Team Forge are giving him.
k1ck has basically just been shoving that bottom lane, forcing k1ck underneath his turret. Notice that the turret has actually gone. That's how aggressive that k1ck and Hiva have been. Right now, bottom lane is, yeah, okay, there's a bit of back and forth between the supports, but there's very little that the bottom lane of k1ck can do to match the wave clear that is a Sivir. And because of that, constantly being forced under turret means that, okay, he's actually done quite good in the farm department as Hiva found Truxlax.
Well, Truxlax is going to knock away his source of damage, but the rest of the cavalry is coming in. k1ck and Taiki are looking to cut off the escape route. Truxlax is going to put some damage onto k1ck, see if he can do anything else. Great ultimate in from Rux is going to disengage this one for Truxlax, but he's still going into enemy territory, and with Jizuki coming up lane, he's actually going to try and teleport out, but he was going to say no to that plan. Flash into the head, but will disrupt the recall, and Truxlax goes down.
Nice collapse coming out from 4G. They realized that Truxlax stayed a little bit too long underneath that tier 1 turret. They tried to set up the dive. Truxlax, noticing that Taiki was coming in from the flank, knew where the parallel convergence was going to go, so he tried to make a teleport play. It didn't work out, and now Mimic is the one in trouble.
Needs to be a little bit careful, but LeChase, he has his ultimate, but doesn't want to go all in on this one. k1ck is also low on mana. Mimic is going to clear out these minions, so he's good for now. Top lane, they're going to continue this push because they got that kill onto Truxlax, so that's a tower just dead. Someone needs to kill it. There we go.
Wow.
So 17 minutes into this game, that's an inner tower in the top lane.
And it's 3 turrets in favor of 4G as well. Notice that k1ck, they weren't able to respond on the other side of the map. They invested both k1ck and LeChase into trying to take that turret, but it wasn't enough against Mimic. He was able to hold them off in a 2 versus 1, and things did not work out, unfortunately for them. Really, Truxlax shouldn't have been overextended. He should have realized the play that was coming and not given away that kill. But there we are, 4G picking up a tier 2 turret and a kill completely for free.
Also, all of these kills are being funneled into Jizuki. The last one wasn't, of course, but 3-0-0 in this game, and is getting pretty scary, honestly, sitting on that big item and Lucidity Boots. Taiki, because they have complete control over this area. k1ck didn't even try and place down wards in that zone, and that will just go over to Team Forge. So that's the second dragon of the game. This time it's going to be the Ocean Dragon. And the next one, I believe, is going to be another Earth Dragon. It is, so they could stack that up even more. But this honestly doesn't look like the same k1ck esports that we've been seeing throughout this tournament. They're generally being built around those team fights, getting a lead around that early and mid game, and just forcing those fights around objectives. And Team Forge seem to be taking a page out of their book and just doing their game, but better.
Well, this is the thing. Hang on a second, because LeChase setting up for a potential dive in the lane. I think this is very risky against Mimic, so LeChase is going to smartly back off. And the big thing is they're now approaching that mid-game point, the 20-minute mark, where you get all of these 2-item power spikes. Notice that Zico completed the Mark II Hex Core, as well as the Abyssal Scepter. Jizuki getting collapsed on.
LeChase is going to come in here, but he's going to try and retreat as k1ck is coming in from the bot-hand sides, and so much damage coming out. Hiva's going to be tanking the tower, and Rux is backing up behind the tower as well. Zico coming in to try and return some damage, but he's a little too late coming in from the front door. Banana shot out from k1ck only really tags a couple of the retreating members. Jizuki is going to get tagged up and burns out of this fight. 1-0 and the tower over to Team Forge.
And this is the difference between 4G and k1ck. 4G have so many ways to press the go button. They have On the Hunt, they have the Alistair, they have the flank in from Taiki and Mimic, and there are just so many options for them to go, right, we want to fight around this objective, whereas k1ck do not. It just takes one target to get called out of position, and then there is nothing that team can do. Truxlax not having any teleport, no way for him to join this fight. He's sitting up in the top lane, and k1ck tried to find an opportunity. Jizuki just sitting on the front line is easily supported up by his teammates. Hiva coming in from the flank, followed up by the support from the On the Hunt, means that there is no way you're escaping from that tanky cow, and 4G just easily set up the dive into the turret for a very nice further, or just furthering their gold advantage.
Such a good Hemo Plague out from Vladimir as well. Jizuki just nailed 3 targets, everyone in that fight, and they just got melted on top of that. And he's got 4 kills in this game, and he's actually just built a Warmog. He is very tanky. He has quite a lot of health. So he's just got shy of 3,000 health right now.
So, Vladimir. So, every 25 points of health gives Vladimir 1 ability power, right? Yeah. So if you get given 800 health, divide that by 25 is 4, 4 times by 8 is 32.
Apply the quadratic formula.
He gets 32 additional ability power by going for Warmogs. Is that really cost efficient? I don't know. On the hunt gets popped.
Let's find out. He was going to come in for the engage here. WQ comes out. Taiki's into this fight as well. Gap is just trying to put as much damage as he can onto these minions, trying to use the ricochet, but maybe the bit off more than they can chew. Teleport now coming out from Jizuki. He's into the fight, but there is no fight to be had. And he'll just kind of be wandering around in circles, looking for someone to Crimson Rush. Zico is just caught out in the jungle, or maybe he's caught out 3 members by himself. Respect the ultimate. 2 kills and the 1-on-3. And Zico comes out with the double kill. Rux and Trucklax. Jizuki now overextending, and everyone is just so split. But he's going to go in and try and do the same 1-on-5 this time. Lands a 4-man ultimate, gets so much of that health back, and he'll be out of this one. So that was a 2-0 this time over to K1ck.
So, 4G, unfortunately, overextending at a point where K1ck have hit a pretty big power spike. The fact that the tier was completed for Kepe means that he was doing so much more damage, but 4G just being a little bit too over-aggressive, not respecting the damage that K1ck can do, and not really being fully aware of their position. Look at how much health they've lost. They tried to get the collapse done onto Zico. He turns around, uses his flash as well as the well-placed gravity field, but on top of that he gets the 3-man ultimate, and people just sitting it. We know how much tick damage that can do. And then they try to get the collapse down onto Jizuki. Unfortunately for him, unfortunately for K1ck, he has a lot of health regen from that ultimate. There it is.
900 health back.
So he's just like, yeah, I'm going to nope out of this one. But really that was all about Zico. Having completed both the Abyssal and that Mark II X core, he does a fair amount of damage. And there's like no magic resistance on top of 4G right now. So they end up paying for it pretty heavily.
Jizuki 4-0-0 has a lot of farm, has a lot of items, and also Jizuki wasn't even in that last fight until the end after he teleported in. So if Team Forge just group up, that sounds like a very solo queue thing to say. It's just like group 5, go mid, and do something. But honestly, in this game, they should do the first part. At least having Jizuki in their lineup is fairly useful when a lot of their gold is on that one champion.
Okay, so I understand the Warmogs a little bit better now.
Okay.
Because the E actually scaled. So hang on a second.
Zico, he's going to get burnt down in the bottom lane. Taiki's going to be tanking up the tower and popping his ultimate. Hiva now swaps towards him. In fact, everyone's so damn tanky down there anyway. And they get the revenge on Zico. Rux is going to try and defend the tower with Kepe and LeChase coming in for support. There's the true shot barrage, but Gap's found him. He's going to try and go for the one-on-one while the rest of the fight opens up. Mimic, he's actually getting burnt down as Jizuki comes in, lands a great tide of blood onto 4 players, and is looking for another one to find his second kill into the Sanguine pool, right as Trucklax was coming in for the heroic charge. 3-0, a big advantage to Team Forge.
So 4G, after getting caught out of position, decide, right guys, we do need to regroup, just as you were mentioning. Let's just group up and fight because we do such a great job in these team fights. Look at the health regen on top of Jizuki right now.
Welcome to Warmogs.
Oh man, that is crazy. 4G though executing a beautiful tower dive, getting pick after pick, setting up the flank with Mimic as well, and off the back of that they're going to be able to pick up another dragon. So overall advantages gained in every respect for 4G. They get themselves kills, they get themselves turrets, and they're going to get themselves that epic monster in the form of dragon. And this is what I was waiting for, the replay, just to see how all these things kick off. Hiva is the guy that comes in for the flank, and when you have these 3 members being collapsed upon you, Taiki with the ultimate to get him out of danger as well, it's just a very clean, an easy dive for 4G. Then what we're going to see is, because of that deep ward behind the turret, you're going to get the teleport coming in from Mimic just then, so that as K1ck try to retreat to the safety of their turret, as Hiva re-engages, there's nothing they can do. LeChase forced to burn that ultimate very, very early, and Mimic is still able to get out alive off the back of that because they just forced down the turret. Then Jizuke being his tanky self and then using that pool at just the right time resulted in 4G being able to get 3 kills plus a turret for absolutely nothing.
The funny thing is, the Chaser's ultimate actually saved Mimic, and Team Forge benefited so much from that because they all just walked back into it and all got healed from it. So just kind of added insult to injury in that last team fight. 7-0-0 now, Jizuki. And I think we can stop doubting him on the Vladimir. I think we can just stop doubting Jizuki in general, honestly.
We can stop doubting Jizuki.
Yeah, so he's picked Morgana, and now Vladimir doing just as well.
He's playing around his E, believe it or not. It scales with 10% of your max health. So his E, right, fully charged, just the damage from his health is 322. Amplified by the AP and the base stat, he's looking at about 600 damage just from his E. And that has a 3-second cooldown.
Indeed.
So that's the build path that he's going for. Basically a tanky frontliner that's purely relying on his E for that damage. I think it makes sense because the Crimson Rush isn't reliable. You do have to play around. You need 2 charges, and yeah, okay, at level 5 and with that much cooldown reduction, it also has a 3-second cooldown. But to get more reliable damage, it's better to just play around your E. So by stacking a lot of health, that's pretty much his intention. And to be fair, you can't doubt him because he is just running into these fights, staying alive for absolutely ages, getting so much health back from his ultimate as well. This could be an adaptation. This is also why you're seeing the very early Spirit Visages as another fight kicks off.
Jizuki, he's going to be leading the charge, or Hiva comes in. Both supports flash. Won't be landing his Pulverize. Qualifiers is kind of circling around and taking away some of his vision as well. It looks like we will have the brief disengage, but it's very clear that Team Forge are trying to pressure the Baron now, and K1ck are very aware of this. And because they are so starved of vision in that area, they're going to have to try and face check. This Baron is already down to 75% HP. Hiva's over the wall, looking to zone people away, but this could be bad for Team Forge as K1ck is coming in as a unit. Hiva, he's still going to be tanking the backlines, and they're going to take down the Baron first before turning their attention to this fight. Jizuki was actually caught in the gravity field, so now they want to be getting out of here. They already lost Hiva. This is not a beneficial fight. The Chaser's going to jump right into the middle of everyone. Pop Lantras bite. Mimic is outside of the circle. He's going to walk back in. Taiki back into the fight with Chrono Break, but now walking away still. Losing 2 members, but taking down the Chase. That's a 1-for-2, but the Baron for Team 4 damage control, and they back off.
Wow, so very close stuff coming out from 4G. Notice that the thing... 4G shouldn't have tried to go back into that fight because Zico's ultimate did so much damage on the backline. Honestly, 4G just weren't respecting it. quack was eventually able to join the fight, but there were so many little things that went well for 4G in that exchange that made things work out. So the first thing is that Zico forced to burn his heal very early on, right? Before that fight even kicked off, so many summoner spells were used. And have a look at Hiva. So Hiva, he's keeping the smite away. Mimic is drawing attention with Jizuke, and they cannot avoid Jizuke or Hiva. Taiki and the rest of them keep the Baron, and the reason the Chase can't get the steal is because of that pillar on the backside of the wall, which denies him using that Dance of Arrows. So a lot of small plays to guarantee the Baron, but then they try to go for the re-engage. Yes, Mimic is going to get the kill onto the Chase, but they end up overstaying and buying enough time for quack to come in from the flank and get themselves an extra kill. So bit of a misplay. Trying to go for that re-engagement, but I think 4G overall are going to be pretty happy with that Baron.
I also like the panic flash by Zico at the end there when Chrono Break came out, but Zico, without that flash, all of it comes back to bite him. Taiki comes after him with Gap and will just take him out. He was just trying to take blue, and now Gap has it. The Chase backing off to his tower, looking for the parallel convergence, but doesn't really want to jump in on that.
Something you have to be very mindful of now that you can see the timers of the enemy buffs. It does mean that teams are going to be looking to play around them a little bit more, and 4G being able to pick that one up oh, Hiva just died. Okay, Hiva. Apparently he got caught out of position trying to set up a bit of vision. So now the numbers have even. The Taigi gets a lot of damage down onto Chase.
I didn't even see where he died.
There.
That is a weird position to Well,
I know people at home don't know what I mean.
Yeah, well,
but if you just have a look around the blue buff, you can see that little skull on the map.
Yeah, we can CSI the death. There we go. That is a dead Hiva right there in the jungle. But now the siege comes in the mid lane. Team Forge looking to try and just get a couple hits down. Remember, they have 2 Earth Dragons, so every auto attack they get down on this tower will do even more damage. And basically made a paper at this stage. Bot lane Mimic is trying to come in for the split push, but one good E out from Zico will clear that one out. 45 seconds remaining on the Dragon, and this will be the last one before Elder.
Mountain Drake.
Is another Mountain Dragon, so this will be the third one of the game.
Yep.
That's a very big mountain.
On their way to completing their mountain range.
Yep.
There's 4G now setting up a siege.
Jizuki, he's walking in, trying to find that third proc from the chase. Heaver will take down the tower. The rest of his team gets CC'd by Zico, and that's the tower down. So that's really what Forge were looking for. And they'll send Jizuki back to base. He has TP, so does Mimic. And that's another problem in this game. Kick. Zico was having to take that heal, so doesn't have the ability to play around both of those lanes.
Yeah, right now, just having a look at some of the items that have been completed. 3 items done for Gap. He is now very, very strong, going up against the Ezreal, who is also very, very strong. But the big difference is Gap being level 16 will have that slight base stat advantage, which will always, well, a significant base stat advantage now that he's just at level 17. I believe he's actually the highest level in the game, about to flame Horizon, his AD carry counterpart. Very impressive stuff. Like, Gap has gone a little bit unnoticed on 4G, but he definitely is one of the higher KDA holders on Team Forge.
Well, I mean, he's just been soaking all of the waves throughout this game and then turning up whenever he kind of needs it. There's the mountain range completed, and good stuff from Team Forge. But Jizuki's really been the big one on this team. That being said, Taiki is assisted in more than all of those kills that Jizuki has. He's just kind of been turning up and getting the last hits, but he's still doing a lot of damage. Be interested to see how much he has at the end of this game. And Void Staff now completed as well. I actually really like this build from Jizuki. I'm surprised we haven't seen more of it. Having just tanky stats that go into AP, and he's just unkillable because he has the health. He has more effective health as well, coming in from the Zhonya's Hourglass with the armor and magic resist from Spirit Visage, and then he can go AP after that. So,
so would you say that you've now become a fan of Vladimir, Pulse?
Just from Jizuki's play, I think so, maybe. I mean, not every game you're going to get 7 kills and then also be unkillable, but I just want to see.
Build you will.
Right. I mean, I just need to see more Vladimir, I think, really, to make a good judgment. I also want to see more Swain because Swain was fantastic to watch, but unfortunately they lost. But in laning phase...
And it also took 60 minutes for them to lose as well.
That is true. Trucklax, he's going to pin Mimic against the wall, coming in with the chase. With Zico, he's going to actually flash away, so Mimic's going to be down a flash in the next fight.
So, the big thing now for Forge is how do they siege? Because Vladimir... Okay, he's not the best at taking turrets, but with the changes now, the more ability power you have, you do a little bit more damage to turrets. Really big thing is the fact that your AD carry has such a low range. The Trundle has to get quite close, obviously. Same for the melee Echo. So how 4G are now going to break into the base of Kick is very much reliant on this Baron that's going to be spawning in a minute.
1 minute 30 to go on that one, and Elder Dragon will be spawning after 35 minutes. And 4G, yeah, really just trying to break into that base now because they've taken all the inner turrets. They're just looking to get into those inhibitor turret lines. Rux, if he gets called out, if they can find a pick onto Kick, that would definitely help out Team Forge complete their objective. But not going to find it today. And yeah, I really think it's just waiting out for that Baron, and because they have such control over that area in terms of vision, there's not much that Kick can do, and they have to just walk blind into that jungle and try and make a steal, try and make a team fight, which they're most likely going to lose, being 12,000 gold behind and a gigantic Vladimir in these team fights. So really, it's difficult for Kick to do too much. They're definitely going to live for the next 40 seconds. That much they have. So they got that going for them, which is nice.
Yes, they certainly do. There's also the on the hunt, so with all the vision that 4G have, if they see one person just in the wrong place at the wrong time, they'll quickly be able to punish them. Level 17 now coming up for Jizuki to the level 15 of Zico. Just everything going wrong for Kick right now, and I think this is something that neither of us were really expecting. 3-0 Kick, very dominant. They have had a few issues with, like yesterday, for example, not closing out the game as smoothly as possible, but Forge, with the reintroduction of Heaver, they do definitely seem like a completely different team.
Well, sure, their playstyle has definitely changed a lot. We're also seeing a lot of games today not go quite as planned. Melty just going hammer against LP earlier. Taiki coming in from the side, looking for this flank to happen. And Heaver's coming in from the top side. Great combo coming out there by Heaver. Rux is going to get CC'd down. And Trucklax, everyone's getting funneled into this small area. But 2 people are knocked away from Trucklax. Is it going to be enough? No, they're actually still losing 3 versus 5. And now Zico is the only member remaining. We'll keep k1ck. Now k1ck is the only one remaining. Triple kill out from Gap, and Mimic's going to chase him down. Actually, k1ck might be able to pick up this one-on-one kill. It's going to be close. Jizuki, no matter what happens, he's going to find the kill. Looking for the Tides of Blood. He's going to chase him down while the rest of the team comes in for the win.
4G. Beautiful play right there. The biggest problem for k1ck was that they just funneled themselves into that choke point, and that is exactly what Forge want you to do. They get the 4-man Vladimir ultimate off, with Gap doing so much damage with the ricochet on the back line, but it all was thanks to Heaver getting that multi-man engager, followed by the parallel convergence from Taiki. We were worried about this Echo, but it worked out beautifully for 4G as they move into the top of the ladder.
Pretty solid performance, honestly. 15-6. I mean, they definitely won all of those fights. Came out of the laning phase strong, and I really can't fault their performance. It was just really good against k1ck. That being said, I definitely feel like k1ck was underperforming in that game. They weren't really playing against around their composition. They weren't really playing like they usually play, looking for those fights. And they had some mechanical missteps. And they just didn't seem to care about Dragon in the game. It just seemed odd.
They, I wasn't a fan of their draft. I could see what they tried to do with the Poppy. And the fact that into the Echo, I think it would have been fine, but you still lack that reliable hard engage that k1ck really need to teamfight, which is what they love to do. Also, the Ezreal got bullied hard by Sivir. I know we didn't look at bot lane very much, but Sivir actually took that turret, the first turret of the game, by just constantly shoving in, and there was absolutely, other than that one gank from the chase early on, which ended up going horribly for k1ck, it's really just been about 4G just pretty much dominating every lane. They won top lane because of the Trundle outscaling the Poppy. The mid lane, the Vladimir was just being a nuisance. I mean, to be fair, when you're a Victor, sure, the matchup is kind of stale for a little while, but when you rush magic resistance in the form of Spirit Visage, then go Warmogs, he's not going to be able to kill that. Victor will not kill that. You might not die yourself, but you're not going to win, and Vlad's just going to keep pushing back once he gets to a certain point. And it was just basically k1ck all across the board struggling, to be totally honest with you, and LeChase couldn't do anything to counteract his struggling lanes.
I also think you hit the nail on the head, because out of the draft, I mean, it wasn't necessarily a bad draft coming out from k1ck, but at the same time, I don't think anyone was expecting Neko to go into the jungle, the Trundle to flex the top lane, and then the last pick, Alistar. So that was actually really interesting in terms of how they flexed their picks coming out to the end of that. So that definitely kind of screwed over k1ck a little bit, because they weren't expecting Poppy to be shoved in by the Trundle. They weren't expecting Vladimir to have such an oppressive laning phase against the Victor. Bot lane, Gap was drawing pressure just by doing Sivir things and basically being Sivir bot, which just shoves waves, takes towers. Like, you saw how much gold she had at the end of the game. Like, Gap was literally, almost as you said, flame horizoning his opponent just by going from lane to lane to lane, just soaking up all those waves. And when it got to team fights, they had so much AoE damage that k1ck just couldn't do anything. And it was like 3 fights in a row where they just kind of keeled over and died.
Yeah, and looking at the standings down, like Team Forge are at the top because they're tied with k1ck with 3-1, and because they now have the game over k1ck, they should be sitting at the very top. So Team Forge, we were a little bit worried about them. Were they really going to be a contender in Group B? Because this is I argue that this was the closer of the two groups, but they are really making a name for themselves, especially with the reintroduction of Heaver. And now you have to wonder, does that Alistar need to be a ban? Because I feel like the plays that Heaver was setting up were a large part as to why Team Forge were able to come out ahead in all these fights.
Maybe. It's funny, actually, because Alistar, some people have been saying, is going down in people's estimations because of the ult nerfs, of course, and then we've actually seen some really bad games from Alistar. Like, Hado wasn't able to do a lot with that pick, but then we've seen the flip side where you can get really good engages out, and then you can tank turrets, but then we've seen the other way where Clyde just dies at tower level 5 and then dies. So, like, it's just, if you can still play the champion and your team can play around it, still a great pick, for sure. So maybe we could even see something else come up. But then he'll still play, like, an aggressive pick. Also to note, there are other standing implications, because with that win, Mouths are now out, and whoever loses the next game, which will be G2V or Chef, will also be out. So there's a lot of things that came with that win coming against k1ck. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next game.
Who would have thought? Fnatic Academy out, Melty, bottom of the table, taking a game off,
LP.
who I thought was the top team of the tournament. K1ck then losing to Forge, maybe not the biggest surprise, but still. And now we've got Mouse, former Challenger team. They are gone from the Challenger Series.
That's actually crazy, yeah. I mean, I don't remember the last split where Mouse were not a team in Challenger. I just expected them to be there. And they had so many splits where they actually did well, got into promotion tournament, got into the finals, but also the polar opposite. And it really just depended on their lineup. So shame to see them go, but still, a lot of impressive things have been happening. I hear we're getting played out. So that's game 5 in the books. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back right after this short break for the very last game of the day.